All right, so we just finished up our communication skills module here, and now we're going to get into coaching skills, and we call this the Super Six. These are basically the 6 areas so you can be a super coach and develop coaching skills. And one that bears repetition, you've heard us say it many times before, you want to know not only your own dreams and why you're in the business, your outcome, but you've got to know the people you're bringing in the business. And even when you're going deep down through your organization, make notes around people's dreams, why they're in the business. If you don't know, ask them and make sure you take notes. And what you want to do is you want to not only know them, but you want to remind them of those as well. Right, Ron? That's really how you kind of motivate. When people say motivate people, you motivate and inspire through reminding them.
Oh yeah, it's about them. It's about the reason they chose to join this business. It's no different than if people that go to school, they have a career in mind and they visualize that career. Now they have to go through 4 years worth of hard work, but they don't look at the hard work, they look at the prize at the end. And the prize is why people join your business, and you have to focus on that prize. And again, when things get challenged, when things get difficult, you got to remind them about the reason they chose this business.
Absolutely. And let's go to number 2. And this is a 3-parter on how you help basically develop people. You've got to show them what to do. You do it with them, right? And then you give them feedback. And we've talked about feedback, but Ron, you want to comment on this as well?
Yeah. You got to show people what to do. You can't just tell them what to do. And then when you do it with them, it's important that you're good at it. And if you've had enough practice, they're going to respect your opinion, and they're going to want to be like you. And that's the ultimate in following. When people want to be like you, they're going to do what you expect of them. You can't tell them what to do and then ask them how did they do. That doesn't work. It has to be, comes from you. You have to show them, and then you give them feedback. And then if they have to do it again and practice it again, that's part of the feedback.
Well, this is why we do the types of, we've always done the types of live sales calls.
Yes.
We still do them today, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of value in showing people, hey, we're going to make calls, you can listen to us.
Yeah.
And Ryan, you talked about this. Always do things in groups. You shouldn't be making phone calls to anyone if you have a group that could listen to you, or one person from the group, right?
It's called leverage.
Yeah.
It's simple. When you can teach 10 people at the same time, or 50 people, or 100 people, it's not going to take any more work from you. It's going to be the same amount of effort. That's right. You may as well take advantage of your time through that kind of a leverage.
And when you do it with them, what you're doing is you're having them do it, but you're with them, having them have a conversation, and you're with them. And you're listening, you're taking notes, and then when that call is over, you can provide them some feedback. And a good thing to do is, before you give feedback, is just to ask a simple permission question, right, Dean?
Absolutely. Ask them permission. Say, are you open for feedback? Are you open for a little coaching? And sometimes even if you ask them, hey, how would you coach yourself on that experience just now, based on what you said?
Yeah, all of those are great. It just kind of opens up the space for you to provide feedback, and then them being ready to hear it and ready to listen. And that's all we're doing, is just helping them make just little tweaks here and there and improve. But they are only going to improve by them actually doing it and then having somebody critique them. Now let's go to the 3rd area, inspiration and new beliefs. And there's a lot of different ways to inspire people. There's a lot of different ways to share new beliefs with them. One of the main tools that I use is I recommend books that have inspired me. I recommend movies that have inspired me. I do everything I can to encourage people to come to the events. I incentivize them to come to the events because I know these are all inspirational tools. Right, Ron?
Oh, well put, Joe. Events are the greatest form of leverage because other people are telling their stories, and you're taking advantage of those stories because you may not be able to relate in the same way with your new people or your leadership in your group, but all of a sudden they may relate to somebody else they saw at an event, and that may be the life-changing thought that provoked them to action. So yeah, leverage off events, and that's where inspiration comes from. In some cases, you don't know where it's going to come from. It comes from everywhere. It's a combination of a lot of things that occur that's going to trigger that person to get truly committed. And that's the key, truly committed to their future.
Exactly. And you're going to continue to improve in this area, but one thing Jim Rhodes said about Inspire is it's really just getting people to look up a little bit higher than they do right now and then getting them to shoot for it. It's encouragement. And as far as new beliefs, we can share with you a lot of strategies. I think just for the sake of keeping this module tight, Dean, we can just mention One of the things that you did with one of your teams is you got the book Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yeah.
Right? And you talk about that. You do a 10-minute call in the morning.
Yep, 10-minute call in the morning, and you instill some new beliefs, and it's inspiration. And you never know who you're going to affect or how they're going to be affected by some of these different stories. So it's just, creating some new beliefs around what other people have done and what they're able to do, Joe.
Absolutely. And if you don't have the stories, borrow stories from other people. There's plenty of books out there that are short stories. Chicken Soup for the Soul is a great one. Let's go to number 4. Blind spots. I mean, here's the thing. This is a great simple analogy. When I was in, third grade, I got brought down to the eye doctor in class. And when I was sitting in the eye doctor, they had me read, of course, the lines. And I read E, and then I read, I can't read the second line. They're like, what? You can't read the second line? I'm like, no. And they're like, you are legally blind. How can this? And they were just blown away, and they didn't uncover this in first or second grade. And so, I think I was sick on those days that they had brought people in for testing. And so I go, this is why I've always sat in the front of the class. And so the bottom line is, I didn't know that that's not how people normally see, because I had no frame of reference. I thought everybody saw like that. And you have to remember that the people that you bring on, and this is very well same thing could happen as far as in their listening skills or their language skills and the way they approach the business, approach their friends, right, Ron?
Oh, absolutely. Blind spots could be devastating. I mean, when you're driving a car, you don't rely just on your mirrors. You look over your shoulder.
Exactly.
I mean, you're driving a $30,000 or $40,000 car, and you're taking great caution so someone doesn't hit you or you don't hit somebody. So when you're building your business, you need to be aware of your blind spots, and it's part of your skill development. If you've had the right skill development and you've practiced everything you've learned, you'll know exactly what to look for, and that is so important.
Absolutely, and again, don't be afraid to point blind spots out to people, okay? They want you to tell them. Just assess that it's the right time for them to hear it, again, by asking the permission question. We're going to continue to teach you this. Permission question is, are you open for a little bit of coaching? I noticed something, I want to know if you're open for a little bit of feedback. Just ask if they're open. They could say, no, not right now, it's been a tough day. That's okay. Next time you talk to them, you've got it on your notepad, you've got it in your CRM or whatever, you bring it up to next time. Most of the time, 9 out of 10 times, they'll say, sure, tell me. And just because you asked, it creates that space for them to listen. Okay? Let's move on. Don't be afraid to share the blind spots when you notice them. And you're going to be better at pointing them out if you've done the work. Number 5 is about accountability and tough love. Dean, you talk about tough love, and Ron, you speak a little bit about accountability, the importance of accountability as far as from being a coach.
Well, it's measuring yourself. I mean, you have to be accountable to yourself in order to make your team accountable to you, because you're not a boss. You're not their boss. You're their support team. You're their leadership. Leadership starts with you. And you have to be the best producer, the best recruiter, the best enroller, the best communicator in order for your people to want to follow you. It's about accountability. They'll see through it. If you're not that best person and you're not constantly improving, you're just talking to yourself, because they're going to find a new leader, or they're going to take control themselves and lead their own groups.
And you can do accountability in simple ways. It's something as simple as, hey, I'm going to send you over this video to watch. It's a 10-minute video, and I want to get your feedback. Here's a great book that I recommend. It's on Amazon. You can buy it for $9. Will you get this book? Yeah, I'll get this book. See if they'll get the book. There's different things you can do. And then, of course, activity accountability is crucial. This is where once a week they're reporting to you with some measurable results. Contacts made, right? Did they follow through with what they committed to? Amount of hours, contacts, how many people they show the presentation with, 3-way calls, how many people did they enroll as customers or distributors. And those are kind of 5 different ways to measure. What's important is that there's some measurement happening. Dean, talk to us real quick about the value of tough love.
Well, absolutely. It comes back to, asking permission first as well if they're open to feedback. But you have to understand, even going all the way back to knowing what their why is, so that when you see how they are responding and when you have your accountability and you see that they're not putting the effort forth that is required in order for them to be able to achieve their why or their dreams, that's when you have to be able to say, sort of call them out on the carpet a little bit and say, hey, I thought this is what you wanted to do, and the action that you're putting forth right now, it's not going to cut it. It's definitely not going to cut you getting to where you want to go. So I have to re-ask you and re-establish, is this something that you really want? And we're going to stir them up a little bit, give them a little tough love. And it goes from that song back from the early 80s, you got to be cruel to be kind, right, Joe?
That's right, that's right. And we're not saying you're cruel to people, but you're tough. Right, Ron? Any comments on tough love? Because this is a tough one for people to really develop sometimes.
Permission's a very powerful question. When you ask for permission to give them feedback, that's critical because that opens a person up for your comments. You can't just mouth out your comments in a way like you're a fire hose, trying to fix it, trying to correct it, saying, "You idiot! I don't know. I can't believe you did this." I mean, it's confrontation. You want to ask for permission and then give them some positive feedback. And if it's negative, you give them negative feedback, but also sandwich with some positive things that they've done. Mm-hmm. So you can't just give them negative stuff. You got to, emphasize the positive, but also say, here's the stuff that's going to hold you back. You need to work on this area as well.
Exactly. And that brings us to number 6, which is it's all part of it. And Dean, let me do a quick role play with you on this.
Sure, absolutely.
So that people can kind of see it in action. You got to build people up too. If you build them up, you tear them down as far as you show them areas of weakness, and you build them back up again. It's a sandwich. It's a simple technique. It's easy to do. And so I may say something to, let's say Dean told me he's going to prospect for 10 hours this week, and let's say he only did 4 hours. Okay. And this is a repeating pattern. This is like the 3rd week in a row this has happened. Now it's time for me to say something. And so I'll do this real quick with Dean. So first thing I'm going to say is, Dean, I see that you have so much charisma and you have such a great personality. I mean, you're a people magnet. I mean, people just love you. They meet you and they love you. I mean, you've had this happen. You know this already, don't you?
Yo, absolutely. People tell me all the time.
You're like a people magnet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I want to see if you're open to me giving you a little feedback, because I've kind of noticed a pattern with you, and my goal is to do everything I can to support you in achieving your goals. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. I want to get there, as fast as possible.
So are you open for a little bit of feedback about a pattern I've noticed?
Sure, yeah, bring it on.
Okay, this is the 3rd week in a row that I've noticed that you've sent me a report over where you've prospected about 60% less than what you committed to. Is there any reason why this has been going on?
There's been some tough things going on right now. Maybe I shouldn't have committed to as much, but I also know that that's what I committed to, and I gotta stay the course.
Okay. Is there anything I could do to better support you so that you could hit those 10 hours a week?
Joe, I think maybe, just being a little bit more available for some 3-way calls, or maybe somebody else that I could bring to, because I know how extremely productive and how valuable your time is.
Okay, perfect. And so if you notice that question I asked, is there any way I can support you? This is a way that you're coaching them without attacking them, without being confrontational.
Right.
Because they are already disappointed in themselves. People are hard enough on themselves that you don't need to be hard on them too. But tough love really just means that you're not scared of questioning what's happening and talking about what's happening. It doesn't mean that you're attacking them about what's happening, right, Ron?
Oh yeah. I mean, this is so textbook, Joe and Dean. You guys did such a great job on relating and identifying with that person. Exactly. It's about inspiring them and moving them to action. If you tear them down, they're not going to go ahead and pick up and go and try it again. They're going to stop doing it because they're afraid of rejection, and you've just rejected them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really not about tearing them down. It's about simply pointing out, making sure they're aware of what's going on, and letting them know that you're aware of what's going on. And you always want to end every meeting or call on a high note. And so, at the end, always end on a high note. This is where you can build them up and say, I see so much potential in you, Dean. You've got just an incredible personality. your future is bright. Let's do this together.
Awesome.
What do you say?
Let's rock, man.
All right.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
And on a high note. So those are the 6. You do these 6. There's not 7 or 8 or 9 or 12 things that you have to know around coaching. It's these 6. Know their why, remind them of it. Show them versus tell them. Do it with them. Provide feedback. You look for different ways you can give inspiration. There's a lot of different ways. There's creative ways. But look for ways that you can do that. Recommend the right materials to them. Don't be afraid to point out blind spots. Always ask for permission. Make sure there's some accountability in place for your new people, your team, a weekly accountability call where people are checking in and you can call on random people. Tough love doesn't mean you're attacking them. It means you're simply making them aware of where they're falling short And last but not least is always end on a high note. Always seek different ways to build them up.